For centuries, this account was called a myth, an allegory, a pious symbol invented by well-meaning believers. Critics and academics confidently asserted that such a pool never existed. They said the steps were just a literary metaphor. The story was too beautiful to be real and too old to be verified. Then, in the summer of 2004, workers from the Jerusalem municipality were repairing a sewer pipe on the southern slope of the ancient city of David. They were breaking up asphalt on an ordinary street when they heard something strange under their shovels, the hollow echo of an immense void. And what was hidden down there, less than 2 meters from the surface, silenced 2,000 years of skepticism all at once. The excavators struck stone, not just any stone, steps. Wide, monumental, perfectly carved with precision at a time when none of the tools we use today existed. The steps were real, the pool was real, the place existed. And with it, a question that had been dismissed as religious naivete returned with a force that no academic could ignore any longer. What if the impossible event that happened there was also real? A man who had never seen anything in his life, blind since birth. It wasn't a blindness that came with time. It was an absolute, permanent darkness that he had known since before he knew light existed. Since childhood, he had learned about the world through touch and sound. The smell of bread baking in the alleys of Jerusalem, the warmth of the sun he felt on his skin but had never seen. Then someone knelt before him in the dirt. He spat on the ground, made mud with his fingers, and anointed the man's eyes. "Go, wash yourself in the Pool of Siloam." Those were the words. Simple. No ceremony, no crowd watching, no promise of spectacle, just an instruction, and a choice to obey or not. The man descended the steps. There were many, wide, carved from stone, damp from constant use. He knew them by touch, by the sound of the footsteps of hundreds of others who descended before him every day. He reached the water's edge. He plunged his face into the cold waters of Siloam. And when he raised his eyes for the first time in his life, he could see. When those steps were uncovered in 2004, archaeologists were called in immediately. As the earth was removed layer by layer with brushes and delicate instruments, what emerged took the academic world's breath away. A trapezoidal pool approximately 70 meters long, surrounded by ceremonial steps clearly built to accommodate massive crowds. It was not a domestic tank, not a private cistern. It was a monumental public structure designed to receive pilgrims from all over the ancient world. And it had remained hidden beneath Ottoman houses, modern asphalt, and centuries of progressive neglect, waiting silently. The Pool of Siloam, mentioned in the Gospel of John as the exact place where the blind man washed his face and regained his sight, had reappeared before human eyes after almost 2,000 years of complete absence. Archaeologist Shukron, who led the excavations, described the moment as one of the most impactful of his career. When they realized what they were seeing, there was complete silence among everyone. No one spoke for a few moments. It was as if the place demanded silence. The stones were there. The steps were there. The marks of wear from millions of feet over centuries were etched into the limestone. Small inscriptions, grooves, signs of intense and continuous use that no modern sculptor could fabricate or fake. And among the stones and the surrounding earth, archaeologists found something that definitively sealed the dating of the place. Thousands of coins, most of them from the 1st century AD. One of them was minted around the year 29, exactly the period of Jesus' ministry. Exactly the time when, according to John's account, a blind man descended those steps and regained his sight. These coins are not historical decorations. They are silent witnesses. each one has been touched by hands that lived in that time, that walked those steps, that plunged into those waters. They are preserved particles of the past, whispers of an era in which the sacred and the everyday mingled without clear boundaries. The place was real, the time was right, and the story that had been dismissed for 2,000 years of skepticism was beginning to take on the concrete contours of verifiable archaeological evidence. To understand the true depth of the Pool of Siloam, one must travel even further back in time, not 2,000 years, almost 2,700, to the year 701 BC, when Jerusalem faced a threat that could wipe the city off the map forever. King Hezekiah knew that Sennacherib's Assyrian Empire was on its way, a military force that had destroyed entire cities, deported populations, and knew no mercy. Sennacherib's own Assyrian chronicles describe how he besieged Jerusalem like a bird in a cage. And the city's most vulnerable point wasn't its walls, it was the water. The Gihon Spring, Jerusalem's main water supply, was outside the walls. If the Assyrians controlled it, the city would die of thirst before any battle began. Thirst would kill children before soldiers, the elderly before warriors. Hezekiah knew this. Then he ordered one of the most audacious engineering feats of antiquity, a tunnel carved directly into the living rock of the mountain, 533 meters long, carrying the waters of the Gihon Spring inside the walls to a large protected pool hidden from enemies, the original Pool of Siloam. What makes this tunnel extraordinary goes beyond its length. It's the method. Two teams of workers started from opposite ends, each digging towards the other, using only bronze and iron tools. They were guided by the sound of the blows on the rock and by calculations that today we would call primitive, but which reveal an impressive sophistication. No GPS, no modern topographic mapping, no communication between the teams beyond the noises transmitted through the stone. And against all geological and mathematical odds, the two teams met at the exact point in the middle of the mountain, with an accuracy of just a few centimeters. In 1880, a boy playing inside the tunnel discovered an inscription carved into the rock wall, describing the exact moment the teams met. As the excavators raised their pickaxes toward each other, a man's voice was heard calling to his companion, and water flowed from the spring into the pool. This inscription, known as the Siloam Inscription, is now in the Istanbul Museum and is considered one of the most important relics of the ancient Hebrew language. The Pool of Siloam was born as a work of military survival, an engineering response to an existential threat. But over time, through subsequent generations, it transformed into something much greater. It became the spiritual heart of an entire city, a place where human engineering and religious devotion merged into a single structure of stone and water. In the centuries following the construction of Hezekiah's tunnel, the Pool of Siloam underwent a transformation. It ceased to be merely a means of survival and became an essential part of Jerusalem's religious life. It was there that pilgrims ritually purified themselves before ascending the Temple Mount, a gesture of spiritual preparation preceding their encounter with the divine. The waters of Siloam carried a meaning that went far beyond the physical. Modern excavations have revealed something that confirms this centrality. Archaeologists have found an ancient paved road made of enormous limestone blocks, some weighing over a ton, directly connecting the Pool of Siloam to the Temple Mount. This road, about 600 meters long, was the path along which pilgrims from all over the ancient world ascended, chanting and praying. With each step, voices mingled with the sound of running water, creating an atmosphere of profound reverence that archaeologists describe as unique in the ancient world. Along the sides of this street, shops, ritual baths, and commercial areas were found, an entire urban infrastructure dedicated to receiving the crowds that arrived for the great festivals. Jerusalem, at that time, was not just a political city, it was the beating heart of the spiritual life of an entire people. During the Feast of Tabernacles, a significant ritual took place annually. Priests descended to the pool with golden jars, collected the sacred waters, and carried them in a solemn procession to the temple altar, pouring them out in a public ceremony. It was a symbol of God's blessing flowing between the sacred and the human. It was precisely in this context of sacred water, of purification, of faith made concrete and communal in action, that the most memorable episode of the place took place. According to the Gospel of John, chapter 9, during one of these feasts, a man blind from birth met Jesus. And Jesus didn't just declare healing with a word, as a magician would. He transformed it into a physical, concrete, almost provocative act. He made mud with saliva and earth. He anointed the blind man's eyes with his own hands, and he simply said, "Go, wash in the Pool of Siloam." The gesture was not arbitrary or casual, it was profoundly symbolic. The same place where Israel had sought purification for centuries, where priests collected the waters that they later poured onto the temple altar, would now be the place where a man who had never seen the light would open his eyes for the first time. The blind man descended the steps, those same wide, monumental steps found beneath the asphalt in 2004, and washed himself. And when he emerged from the water, the darkness of a lifetime had vanished. To those who were there, it seemed impossible. Congenital blindness had no known cure. The man was taken to the Pharisees, who also questioned his parents, who confirmed, yes, he was born blind. Yes, now he can see. How? We don't know. The simple answer from the healed man himself was recorded in the text for 2,000 years. One thing I know, I was blind, and now I see. Today, the site is being restored as part of one of Israel's most ambitious archaeological projects. The Israel Antiquities Authority intends to open the entire area to the public, reconnecting the Pool of Siloam to the ancient Pilgrim Road and Hezekiah's underground tunnel system. What has been buried for almost 2 millennia is returning to light, as if the city itself were slowly regaining some of its lost vision. Some who visit the place today describe the experience as something difficult to put into words. The descent down the stone steps, the silence that contrasts with the noise of the modern city above, the smell of ancient stone and running water, all compose a landscape where time seems to fold back on itself, where 2,000 years and the present coexist in the same physical space. The Pool of Siloam doesn't belong to just one religion or one people. It belongs to human history. It's proof that places considered legendary can be real, that stones survive time when everything else disappears, that the sacred can be forgotten, buried under layers of neglect and modern asphalt, but never completely erased. The stones are real. The steps are real. And if the ground beneath our feet hides secrets this profound, what else is waiting in the dark to be discovered? This was Sacred Routes. If this video touched you, share it with someone who is also seeking these places where the sacred still breathes among the stones of the ancient world. And subscribe to the channel. The next episode is already here waiting for you.